welcome back to another DrunkFriend podcast. For the uninitiated, we're a couple of retro gaming enthusiasts and YouTubers who started a podcast to chat with other people just like us. More about that in a second. But for now, I'm Travis, aka NESfriend, alongside Alex, aka SNESdrunk.
Yo. And wow, what an atypical pair of weeks here with the quarantining and whatnot. How has it impacted your life and your video making?
My life is pretty weird because I'm working from home for the first time in my life. That's kind of weird because a lot of people that I work with in my office, for those that don't know, I work at a records department for a community college. And so I work with a lot of older people. So getting them on board with technology, like that takes like a week to take care of in and of itself. And we're still not there yet. So there's still a lot going on that end. And in the meantime, since I work at a school, I'm only as busy as long as like applications are coming in and stuff like that. So, and there's like, nobody's thinking about school right now.
Right.
So there's not much going on for me on the work front. But as far as the videos and stuff like that, everything's pretty much the same. I guess we should talk a little bit about what we're working on, huh?
Yeah, I guess we could do that.
Well, first, how is life treating you so far in the quarantine? Because I know
right.
it must be difficult for you because you have more responsibilities.
Yeah, well, it seems like I'm working harder now that I'm home because I have this suspicion that people think that I'm not working hard because I'm at home. So it's kind of flipped on its head. So it's a lot more teleconferencing and awkward meetings using video conferencing tools that I'm not comfortable. Like, it's weird. Like, I make tons of videos, but like, I don't usually have my face in them, but so having to like teleconference with even people that I know is just really awkward. And you're just always looking up someone's nose or whatever. It's just awkward. But a lot's getting done, I guess. But it's the time I save every morning putting on pants has been nice. I just kind of stroll down and into the old office and just rock it out. Just me and the cat. I don't know. It's something maybe I could get. I don't want to get used to it, but I could.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's nice not to have to stress out about traffic. That's the worst part of my day every day is just driving to work because there might not be a lot of traffic in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but it's the drivers. It's like the singularities that like drive diagonally down the highway, cutting everybody off, and it's just like, okay, congratulations, you beat me to this red light. You're great job. I'm sure you're proud of yourself there.
As a country bumpkin, I experience no traffic at any point of my life. Like, my day-to-day is, I probably don't drop below 65 miles per hour unless I'm parking or pulling out of the parking spot. So,
dang,
don't have that complaint. But the roads are pretty empty here. I've noticed things about, like, things that have always existed, I'm now noticing as a thing. Like, I don't know how it rolls in Albuquerque, but or in New Mexico in general. But in Virginia, we have ABC stores. So basically, Virginia controls our distribution of liquor. And so there's no liquor stores. Like, traditionally, like, you can go to, like, in a lot of states, you can go to, like, a gas station, and it has, like, you can get Cheetos, beer, and liquor. Like, in Virginia, that's not a thing. There's just dedicated liquor stores that are ran specifically by the government.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's very controlled. But they're considered essential. And I didn't know this. You could do this, like, always. You could just put in an order from your phone and then just go pick it up. Like, it's, takeout from Ruby Tuesday. And so I've been doing that because, that's not that I know we've been quarantined for a week and I'm already talking about having, like, liquor delivered to my house. Like, I'm not, I don't have a problem. But I did notice it was a thing. I was running low. I was, dipping into my reserves. I was sitting on less than 5 gallons. So I was like, man, I got to go restock. So,
well, it's like Barney Gumble when he first takes a sip of that beer from Homer in college, and he just goes, "It begins."
Yes. Completely different character from then on, but that was cool. So finding stuff, I used DoorDash for the first time. That was cool. Trying not to get out, limiting my social exposure, which I was already pretty good at doing. But it's just strange times, man.
Yeah, it's pretty tough not to be like, you know what? It's 9:30 a.m. It's time for a beer.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I got to like exert some self-control here.
Yeah.
But it's pretty quiet. I went for a drive with the dogs on Sunday, and it's very strange not to see like any traffic anywhere. I read an article about this lady. I forget what city in New Mexico it was, but she was just going around the neighborhood driving very slowly, and she has a convertible, and she just has like, I think it's a German Shepherd, and she's doing like a one lady, one dog parade and just like waving to everybody. And everybody's coming out of their house to wave and say hello and stuff. I thought that was awesome. I was like, man, that's how you do it right there. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. It's strange in that like our old neighbor came over to give us like cookies. Like that's what we need right now is cookies.
Cookies,
like,
all right.
Yeah, but we were like, we just saw her going door to door giving out like treats and stuff. We're like, lady, what are you doing? Like, this is the worst thing you could be doing. Like, it's a sweet gesture, but now I'm gonna have to go in here and like Lysol down these cookies and
like, scrub them down. Yeah.
She wasn't wearing gloves and like try not to be hyper vigilant or rude, but like you're really old, you're really sweet, but you need to stay inside, watch some Columbo reruns and just chill for a couple weeks. And I just worry
big
about
Columbo
people,
fan, aren't you?
Raised with that one TV. You can only and Matlock, Columbo, Heat of the Night. I'm all in on 80s crime drama.
How about Hill Street Blues?
Oh, love it.
Yeah,
another big favorite. Yeah, Chips for the comedy relief.
Let's be careful out there.
And Dragnet.
That's the only thing. Oh yeah, Dragnet's another classic.
Yeah, TV Land. Big fan. So we were talking about what we were playing, but before we even get into that, I'm going to push that back even further. We had talked about potentially, and I alluded to it in the intro, that we're eventually going to have guests on this show.
Oh, right, yeah.
And what a lot of people don't know is that we did.
Yes, we did. And should we? I think we should save who it is until the actual podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Drops. We'll do that. But it's my fault. It didn't air because I had the, of course, pleasure of having my audio recording program Adobe Audition. When I pressed stop on recording after talking for about an hour, I got the dreaded not responding parenthetical. And then I waited for about 5 minutes, and then the program just disappeared. Yeah. And I spent about 2 hours looking for the audio on my computer, nowhere to be found. So it's like, sorry, can we do this again? And to be fair, he's a super nice guy. Couldn't be a more chill guy. Right. He's really awesome to talk to. You guys will love it. So we look forward to that being episode 3. And in fact, I got some breaking news here. He said that, let me pull it up here. He said that either Wednesday or Thursday night would work for him. We're recording this on a Monday. Or no, today's Tuesday. So would Thursday work for you or no?
Actually, no. I'm going to have to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday guy on this one.
Okay.
Not to be the difficult one, but...
No, you're fine. I'll just bounce that back to him and see what he says.
Cool. Yeah, so if, for folks that end up listening to episode 3, assuming that, you listen to 1, you survive 2 here, you make it to 3. If you don't like it, trust us, the original recording was probably better.
Keep that in mind at all times. The entire time you're listening to it. Write it down on a piece of paper. And every time you frown at something somebody says, just look at that piece of paper and be like, oh yeah, that's right.
It was it was a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it again. Fun guy.
Yeah, so. And it's a YouTuber that you're all if you're listening to this, you're probably familiar with this person.
No doubt.
So you guys will like it.
So about what we've been up to. So I actually kind of have a fun little story about a video project I'm working on and it'll be a part of the video too, so I'm totally spoiling the video. But I was doing a review of this really simple shoot 'em up for the NES called Twin Eagle. No one's heard of it. No one cares. I get that.
That's an NES game?
It is an NES game. Yeah, it was an arcade game part of the NES.
Yeah, I've played the arcade. I did not know it made it to the NES.
Yeah. No one needs to make a video about it, if I'm being honest. But, it came up on the randomizer, and I said, let's just do it. And I take those opportunities I was like, let's just make an entertaining, fun video. Like, that's my chance to really do what I want to do. No one's going to be heartbroken if I hate the game, and maybe I'll get a few laughs out of it. That's kind of what I was thinking. So this game has this, according to Wikipedia, and again, this will all come out in the video, but It says that the European version of the game contains a well-known Japanese-English mistranslation, as the player is informed after losing all lives that the player game is abortion. And and I decided I had to see that, like, for my own eyes. Now, on Wikipedia, it actually says citation needed for that. And I was like, well, you know, why? It's too specific to kind of make up and just put in a Twin Eagle Wikipedia page. Like, it has to exist. So I go looking for it, and I find that, number one, there's not a European version of the game that I could find. And there are rumors of, like, I guess not rumors, but there is some evidence that, I keep saying there's rumors and evidence as if there's not like a physical piece of thing, but like in Australia, there is a Twin Eagle game that was made unlicensed, and I'm like, maybe that's it. Maybe someone thought Australia and Europe were like the same thing. They speak the same language. Maybe, I don't know, but I can't find a ROM for that. I can't find any ROM that has this translation. I've looked for compilation ROMs, cards. I've looked all over the place. I cannot make it happen. So the video actually starts down this wormhole and never ends up finding, like, I just want a screenshot of this It says it's well known, but I wasn't
I'm looking
able to do
at the list of NES games on Wikipedia, and you know how it has like 3 columns for the release dates for North America, PAL region, and I guess Japan is somewhere else, but it says it's unreleased in Europe. So was it like in development and then it was canceled?
Maybe.
Or something like that?
It's a good question, yeah. So I looked all over the place, and it does say citation needed. My goal is for that citation to be a NESfriend video. So I've got to I will find it. But that's been the wormhole. I salute
you. That's much needed, very useful work you're doing right there.
Thank you.
It's a massive gap in the... I mean, with a line like that, I need some closure here.
I know.
I really do.
I know.
That's crazy.
Have you gone down some wormholes through your video? I know, like, you do a lot of the import stuff. Has there ever been just some weird mystery that you've come upon that you've not been able to figure out?
Yeah, that's what led to the Super Nintendo Myths
right, of course,
series, where I forget what oh yeah, of course, what started that whole thing was all the Hagane nonsense. For those of you who don't know, Hagane is a pretty rare-ish Super Nintendo game, and it's been talked about for years, and I'm talking like over 10 years now, as some sort of quote-unquote Blockbuster exclusive. Like, you could only rent it from Blockbuster. It wasn't for sale anywhere. Meanwhile, there's like no evidence of that anywhere. With certain Blockbuster games that are rental exclusive, that was a thing. It'll say right on the box that, hey, you can only rent this at Blockbuster. I think Final Fight Guy was like that.
Yes.
But Hagane wasn't. In fact, it said on the back of the box that the game is for sale. It has the same text as every other game. It was listed for sale in catalog orders, and it got to the point where somebody, a commenter, actually, I don't know how he got this, but I don't know if he owns it or a friend owns it or a store owns it. It's an unopened Hagane box that is from, I forget if it's KB Toy. I think it's Electronics Boutique.
Okay.
And it's got a price tag on it from Electronics Boutique, and it's sealed. And it's like $59.99. And I'm like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's being sold in a store, right? Like, there's your evidence right there.
Jeez.
So, yeah, and that whole thing started because of a few videos out there from much, much, much more popular YouTube channels and personalities, and I was just like, why are people saying this? Like, this is, and it's artificially bumped the price up of the game, and it's frustrating because it is a really good game. It's incredibly hard, but it's still a really fun game, and it's like, well, I guess I got to go get the Super Famicom version if I want to own a cartridge of this one. So
yeah, and you would think people that own like just the cart version of Hagane would have complained about how much glue is on their cartridge from Blockbuster stickers, you know?
Right, I know. And that's a good point. Yeah, they used rubber cement on those stickers.
Oh, no kidding.
Like, those were not... You had to take like a hammer and a chisel to get those off.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, speaking of, I actually do have a Final Fight Guy, though, and it's pristine, so I can't really explain that one, but... which is funny. Yeah, dude, I got so lucky. When I first started collecting Super Nintendo stuff, so I collected NES for a while, and then I kind of ventured into other consoles because, you know, you get bored, whatever.
Sure.
Didn't have a girlfriend at the time. And so I was on eBay, and I found a lot of Super Nintendo games for like $100. And it was like, it didn't even tell me what was in it. And I was kind of foolish in doing it because I should have expected just to get like 99 John Madden 94s and maybe a Wayne Gretzky's hockey, which is actually almost what happened. I got 5 copies of almost every yearly sports game in that box. Then I got like a Mortal Kombat 2 that looked like it had throw up on it, like I had to throw it away, and a Final Fight guy was in there.
Wow.
In this decrepit old box that I guess somebody, maybe they were just selling off stuff that they couldn't sell at a flea market, put it on eBay, and something fell through the cracks, and I got super lucky.
Yeah, I was able to find out through somebody on my Discord that, I was always under the impression that game was just, oh, hey, it's the original Final Fight on Super Nintendo, but with Guy instead of Cody. And I found out that game has a lot more going for it. It's a lot more polished. They got rid of a lot of the slowdown, and I believe Poison and Roxy are in that version too, aren't they? Instead of Billy and Sid, I think there's some different enemies in there too.
It's interesting. I've played both kind of extensively, but I've not really paid attention to that level of detail. Like I should check it out.
Yeah, they show up at the beginning of level 2.
Huh.
But yeah, it's I was always for years. In fact, I think I put that as part of one of the Myths videos. That is like, yeah, it's the original Final Fight is not, or I mean, Final Fight Guy isn't just another version of the original Final Fight. They actually cleaned it up substantially.
Wow.
And it's a better version. So even if it's worth getting if you like Final Fight, and you just like playing it with the Super Nintendo controller.
Yeah.
It's worth getting it for, like Super Famicom or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's worth getting some other way besides actually buying it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what it's going for now. I haven't checked in a long time, but
oh boy, I'm afraid to look. It's up there. It's in the 300s. One thing I got lucky on recently was I managed to score a copy of Harvest Moon.
Ooh.
Because a friend of a friend was moving, and it was a last minute thing, and they were just desperate to like get rid of whatever. So I offered, I was like, I can give you $70 for it. He's like, okay, fine, here you go.
Wow.
And
nice.
He was like totally cool with that. I don't think he knew what he had, and I feel kind of bad about it. It's one of those things where it's just like, should I tell this guy? But it's at the same time, I could see how freaking stressed he was because he's moving across the country because of a job change. So it's like, I don't want to burden this guy with more crap.
Yeah, and $70, I mean, that's still, even if he didn't know what he had, that's more than he ever expected to get out of it. I mean, it's not like you offered him just $20.
And it was just for that game too. He had a bunch of others. He had like Kirby Superstar, he had the Mario All-Stars with Mario World. He had a bunch of stuff, but that one my eyes lit up. I was like, holy crap. I've always wanted to own that game because while I didn't know about it when I was a kid, I would have loved it had I played it as a kid because it's like totally up my alley.
Yeah, because I remember you were going through like a big Stardew Valley phase for a while, and I think that aren't they kind of similar? Yeah.
Oh yeah. The creator of Stardew Valley, he did like this very touching interview where he got to meet the creator of Harvest Moon, and he talked about like how it's like, yeah, there would be no Stardew Valley for Harvest Moon. I put 1,000 hours into Harvest Moon and all that sort of stuff. It was really cool. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of there's plenty of things to complain about when it comes to social distancing and whatnot, but I do kind of miss. I say miss like it like this is we've been in quarantine for 10 years, but because it's been warming up, it's usually the time of year here in the mountains, the lovely Appalachian Mountains, to go out and hit the yard sales or the flea markets and be really close to people that don't take good care of themselves. But now I can't. You just can't pay me to do that now. But I'm kind of getting the itchy wallet finger. Like I haven't spent money on a video game in probably 2 months.
Are you a big Final Fantasy VII guy? Are you going to be getting that when it comes out?
There are certainly fans, much bigger than I. I do think that looks cool, and I'll play it. But I'm not a day one kind of guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we both, my Pearl and I, my girlfriend, are we're just counting down the days till that comes out. So we're gonna be occupying like all of our time when that comes out.
Yeah.
Mostly her playing because that's like her favorite thing. It's like her favorite thing. Period.
Oh wow.
So
I was going to ask because you talk about Stardew Valley, and you've covered some more contemporary games on occasion, like Steam stuff. But how often do you play modern games?
It comes and goes. It's like anything else. Like I just get a bug for it sometimes. Like I think the most recent one for me was Hollow Knight, and that was fun. Like,
right.
just going through that. I had another recent one for Nier Automata.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap, that game is amazing. But I really want to get to a place where I don't have, I'm caught up on the channel and I don't have anything else going on. That game looks incredible. It is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like the story, like every part of it. And I hope to do a video on that one sometime, like just on its own.
Wow.
That's how much I liked it. So, but yeah, sometimes like there's other games I really want to get to, like Crosscode is another one. It's like an action RPG. I was playing that on Steam. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but yeah, there are some that like really grab me, like, and Stardew Valley was definitely one of them. Undertale was another one.
So do they kind of have, I mean, I guess Nier Automata, not specifically, but do they kind of have to have a retro feel to them to kind of speak to you most of the time, or is it just a mixed bag?
I think they do, now that you mention it, because Nier Automata, your second playthrough with the second character has that, like, he hacks these machines, and he goes in, and then all of a sudden the gameplay turns into almost like this Atari shooter, real simple, like almost like an Asteroids kind of a game.
Right.
And it's like that's pretty clever. It reminds me of what Undertale did with their random battles, where it's like that tiny little screen in the middle, and you have to like just dodge stuff. But yeah, I think that is part of it for sure. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, I'm kind of a mixed bag too, and I do another podcast, Polykill, where we talk about like going through the backlog, and so my backlog's kind of a mix of new and old. I'll play the new stuff, excited about the new Doom. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'll probably play through that. And then working through the NES backlog and the Super Nintendo games and all that stuff is kind of a big deal for me too. So I guess I'm more all around the board. I just really want to play, like my interests kind of lie in old and weird, like things that are old that I've never heard of, even if they're bad for some reason, just because it's from another time. I just want to check it out. And that's not so much true with newer stuff. Like if you could tout out any new game and be like, hey, this is, a quadruple A indie title, and I'm like, it needs to be proven to me first. Like I need it to have good reviews, and I need it to be worth my time out of the gate before I sink time into it. Because I just feel like there's so many of them. But I guess
more than ever, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'm kind of like just an obscure video game history nerd in some way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Another thing I just thought of is that I absolutely suck at most modern games. Like I'm terrible at a lot of. So the game definitely does have to have some kind of like retro simplicity to it, because that's what I'm used to. But yeah, when it comes to modern stuff, like I'm trying to think of, like Red Dead 2. Like I just can't play stuff like that, because I freaking like, how do you aim? How do I get on this damn horse? Like, like I suck. Like I'm just not good, and I just don't want to spend the time to like get good at it, because I got other stuff I want to get to.
I guess that's a catch too, in that a lot of the modern games that I am interested in, like I really did like Red Dead 2. I liked God of War and the new Spider-Man, but they do take up a lot of time. And it's not like I'm averse to that. Like I'll play an old school RPG, but I still prefer a 2 to 5 hour experience over I get to a point eventually in most games where I'm like, okay, let's wrap it up. Let's finish this off. And I experience that a lot with a lot of modern stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm just I guess maybe it's my attention span, but it's like I'm too scatterbrained, especially when I'm recording footage. Like I'm just jumping around save states. Like, oh, I need this part. I need this part. I need this part. Mm-hmm. I got to go back to the title screen and enter in a password and get this part, and like just going in a million different directions. And I'm sick of this. I'm gonna go play something else. And it like scratches that itch like immediately. Whereas with something like like Red Dead 2 or Grand Theft Auto 5 or whatever, it's like, well, you sit here and you play this one game for hours and hours, and it's just like, that's not interesting to me, unless it's something super off the wall like Nier Automata.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think I almost need to be overwhelmed with media at all times. So, like if I play an old school game, so I've been playing through like the Wild Arms games on PS1. Played through both of those kind of recently. Yeah, they're pretty fun. They're more akin to a SNES era RPG than I think a lot of the PS1
for sure.
stuff. And so I enjoyed those, but I could also listen to a podcast while I played them. So I was, listening to something I enjoyed and playing something I enjoyed, and I didn't have to be. I wasn't mentally taxed by the game, so I could really soak in, the podcast or whatever I was listening to. But with modern stuff, like they usually deserve your complete and full attention. Like when I played Red Dead, I had to just, there's no listening to a podcast while you're playing that. This defeats the whole purpose of the game. So
right, yeah,
I have to be in a mindset.
You got to be
you
got to be engrossed in the whole game and like have the sound like blasted, and so you can hear all the ambience and
right.
Got to play it on a 65-inch screen. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and it's rewarding from that regard too. Like when you experience that, and you're like, you take in all of its qualities because it does sound great and it does look good and it is well told, and so I definitely want to appreciate all those things. But sometimes I want to turn that off and just
I hear you. So let me ask you, so speaking of your process there, going back a little bit, you talk about how you needed focus or, something to glom onto or whatever the case may be, and you use a randomizer to pick what games your videos are going to be on.
Yeah.
What is the worst game the randomizer has picked so far?
I mean, Twin Eagle, I guess.
Really? That's the worst so far?
I was trying to think. I'm waiting for the day that it lands on Action 52 because I'm pretty stoked to just make fun of all of those. But, I mean, I don't know. Whatever it is, there's probably a video for it. I have a video on Commando coming out, which is a really not great NES game.
I liked Commando. I thought it was, I mean, I was like freaking 8 years old when I played it, but I thought it was cool.
I mean, it's simplistic.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I guess the ones that were hard for me, like I almost said, okay, I'm not doing this, were the game show games, just because I was like, is anyone really going to care? Like, am I going to get made fun of for, doing these videos of, like, game show games, really, guy? You think you're going to do a review on those and we're going to care? But I ended up having a lot of fun, and then it just ended up being a nostalgia source for a lot of folks who are like, oh my god, I used to watch the show all the time, I forgot all about it, and like that was kind of nice to get those kinds of comments. So it was less about the game and more about what the games were about. Yeah,
people's experiences with it. And not only that, but a lot of those game show games were owned by families, and it was like mom and dad's way to get into playing Nintendo.
Absolutely,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I called attention to that because I was like, very few people that we know bought Family Feud, but I bet our parents bought them, those games, just like thinking, oh, wow, it'd be great for, us and the kids to sit down and play this game together, whatever it was to them back then. I'm betting very few kids were like, oh my god, I need to get, like, saw in a magazine Family Feud, and were like, Mom, please. I doubt that happened, but I bet a lot of dads were about like, yeah, I bet we could do this.
Well, yeah, I remember my friend's dad had a Game Boy, and he only had 2 games. He had Tetris, and he had golf.
Yeah, that's a dad Game Boy right there.
Yeah, and I remember asking him, like, don't you want any more games? He's like, I don't need any more games. I just play this when I'm on the toilet.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, if that's all you're using it for, then I can't say I blame you. And by the way, my mom did buy Family Feud for Super Nintendo.
There you go.
Just because she wanted to play that by herself. Like, she's like, you guys go away. I want to beat the computer. And she had fun with that.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, the randomizer, man, I dig it.
What was the best game the randomizer picked up that you weren't you've never heard of it, you weren't expecting anything? What was the best game?
So it has landed on the Mega Man, a few of the Mega Man games, and I'm pushing that off because I want to play through the 5th one like outright. I don't want to be rushed to do it for a video. And me and a buddy will play through those together. We kind of switch off, and we've done it for every Mega Man that 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and then X1, X2. So there's some tradition there. So kind of waiting on a good opportunity for that. So I'm kind of pushing that off. Plus, I don't really know how I'm going to do it. So that I still need some, I don't know if I'm going to do like a part 1 with the first 3 or do them individually. So I keep putting it off until I come to some agreement with myself of how I'm going to do it.
Right on. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are a few that will come up that I will push off for the sake of like timing. Like, I got the baseball one. I was like, well, I'll push that to opening day. I won't do it next, but I'll put it on the list. Or if I get a game that's kind of Halloween themed, I'll go ahead and slot it for one of the October slots. But For the most part, I just
yeah.
run with it. Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm trying to think back to Mega Man 5, and to be honest, 4, 5, and 6 like all blend together in my mind. Like, who's in 5? Is that Pharaoh Man? Like, I can't even remember.
I have no. It's weird because people are like, "Oh, you've beaten most of the Mega Man. You must be like an expert." I'm like, dude, I couldn't tell you. I know Rockman's in a couple of them. Like, I think, like, I have no memory of the dude until I sit down and play the game.
They all blend together.
They do,
after a certain point. Like 1, 2, and 3 are pretty distinct in my mind because that's when I first got into video games.
Right.
And of course, 2 has the awesome soundtrack and the practically invincible weapon of Metal Man's buzzsaw weapon, which is like the best weapon ever. I'm reading now. Yeah, Mega Man 5 is like Starman, Gravity Man. Charge Man. I think Charge Man's the one with the awful kick.
Oh yeah, it was
weapon.
5 the one where Nintendo Power had readers design the bosses. Was it that one or was that 6?
I think that was 6.
Okay.
I think 5. Here, let's see. I think 5 did do that in America, and 6 did it in Japan or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think they both.
Leave us an angry comment if you know. Leave us a really
leave us a really angry, like lots of caps and swear words and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is DrunkFriend. We were doing this with drinks and basing all of our gaming memories and experiences off the top of our heads. So,
I mean, I'm trying to enjoy my beverage while reading through a Wikipedia page, and
that's right.
It's not going so well here, but.
For Mega Man 3, though, I was recently at Magfest, which is a big music and gaming convention here on the East Coast.
Wow, cool.
This was pre-quarantine, thankfully, and I got to see some people. And I got in line to meet Harumi Futari, which was the composer for some of the tracks of Mega Man 3, and she signed my cartridge of Mega Man 3, so that's pretty cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I'm not usually an autograph hound, but I had Mega Man 3 and she was there, so why not?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's. Did you meet anybody else there? Like, what was that like to go to Magfest? Was that your first time going?
No, it was actually like my 7th or 8th time going.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I usually stay away from like anything that resembles an autograph line or a meet and greet kind of deal, just because the lines are too long and there's so much more stuff to do at Magfest that I'd rather do than stand in line for something like that. If I run into them, that's cool. Like if I bumped into James Rolfe on the way to doing something else, that'd be awesome. But I don't really want to stand in line with a bunch of people for an hour just to have him, frown at me and sign something.
Yeah, so, do the mug face.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Magfest is awesome. A lot of live music. I've only been to a couple game convention type things, so I don't really have a lot to compare it to. But it's like more of a celebration of gaming in general, and not so much a con like with a big. I've been to like too many games where it's mostly just tables of things you can buy, like games you can buy. And the marketplace is kind of a small part of this. There's like big arcade, lots of music, places to play board games, intellectual panels, and then tons of gaming adjacent celebrities. And I'm using a lot of air quotes. But, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
So, okay, if I can't see myself ever going to something like that just because I hate crowds.
Right.
But what kind of arcade games are we talking here? Because if there's the right kind of, if they have some certain cabinets that like are really tough to find in the wild, then I am so there.
I have heard that for the 3 nights or 4 nights that Magfest is open, it's the largest arcade on the East Coast and maybe the second largest in the world. I've just heard people say that. I don't know, but it is massive. It is massive. There are probably doubles of most of the cabinets. Last year they had a big pinball push, so they had this whole giant. I'm not really even big to pinball, but or not big into pinball, but
well, some of the machines are really impressive. Like we were lucky enough to have at Sister Bar here in Albuquerque. For a while, they had the Guns N' Roses pinball machine. And that was loud as hell, and it was like blasting like Paradise City and Sweet Child of Mine, and it had the band awesome. Like drawn, real fancy artwork, and it was like a piece of art. Really, it was so well done and well made and really cool. Like I just sat there staring at it for like 5 minutes when I saw it. I didn't play it, but because I'm not very good at pinball, but yeah, there's certain machines that are just like. you just want to sit and stare at them just because, so much work went into like planning and like the artwork and the audio and all that sort of stuff is just really kind of a sight to behold.
Yeah, and they're kind of an engineering wonder to me still.
Right.
Like just how they all operate and that they did for their time is pretty impressive. I probably need less alcohol to go in depth on my pinball affections, but in general though, that arcade floor at Magfest is, every time I go there I'm impressed. Like I said, I've been there 8 times. It's grown a little bit. There's kind of a growing segment though of newer stuff, which is a lot of rhythm games and,
DDR type stuff.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
Which is pretty, people there are crazy good at that stuff. It's fun to just stand around and watch people just go nuts on those things. It's incredible. So, I'd recommend
I have seen some craziness on those boards where the dude is like leaning back, like on his hands on the railing, and he's just like doing 2 pads at once, one with each foot. Yeah. And it's just like, Jesus. Like, how do you...
Well, if you ever, decide that it's worth facing some social anxiety over, it'd be awesome to have you at Magfest.
Well, right on. I appreciate that. The whole issue with me with crowds is just like, at least at baseball games and like events where you have seats, like you have a piece of paper telling you where to go and where you're supposed to stay. At stuff like that, it's just everybody moving in every direction. So there's a million different variables that are happening that you need to account for. And it's just like, this is a bit too much for me and my brain. So I'm just going to not do that. But the arcade thing, I feel like I would just want to walk around and like look at all the different titles. Like that in and of itself would be enough for me. Like I can bear crowds for that, especially if I can find stuff like just like super weird stuff. Like Data East has really made some strange titles, like Nitro Ball, which is like some sort of pseudo pinball Smash TV thing where every level has its own theme. Like the first stage is football themed, the second stage is like in a haunted house, and the next stage after that is like a battlefield. Like it like those of you out there that are listening and can Google Nitro Ball Data East and just look at the craziness in some of the videos. That game is ridiculous. Like I would love to see that in the wild and be able to play that on an actual machine. When is that usually during the year?
It's early. It's usually like the weekend after New Year's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's on the harbor just outside of D.C., so it's usually cold as balls. It's so cold.
Oh, that doesn't scare me. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota.
I was going to say you're in New. I thought maybe Albuquerque had changed you, but it's usually it's right on the water, so it's like an extra bitter wind.
Oh, sure, yeah. My girlfriend calls it knife cold.
Yes,
like
that's perfect.
The kind of cold that hurts. Yeah,
it's true.
It's normal for me.
Fair enough. Okay.
She calls me a moose, so because I can just adapt to like any cold. So, but I remember after moving here to Albuquerque, the first time I visited back home, Minnesota, it was in the summer because I'm not stupid. But the next time I went back during winter break, or during Christmas break for our work. I work for a school, so we get a bunch of time off between Christmas and New Year's. So I went like on like December 28th, and I was kind of nervous because I was like, the cold is really going to bother me because I love how warm it is in New Mexico, and it's interesting because like right now it's probably 70 out right in Albuquerque, sunshine, but it's the high desert, so it still gets cold overnight. It's still going to drop to like 35.
Eesh.
And 35 after you've experienced 70 earlier in the day before. 35 feels like 35 below. Like
right.
It feels like way colder than it should be. So I was pretty nervous when I went to Minnesota, because this cold is just going to destroy me. But I will never forget like getting my bag from the baggage claim and walking outside and waiting for my parents to pick me up in their Volkswagen, just waiting there. And I had my coat on. I didn't have a hat. I didn't have gloves, and I didn't have a scarf. And I swear it had to have been -6, -7 with a wind chill of. It was their coldest week of the year. Every year, Minnesota has, or the Twin Cities area, I should say, has like a week where it just does not get above zero the whole week. Yeah, it's awful. And I happened to get there on that week, and I was fine. Like, I was just like, oh, I remember this. It was almost like muscle memory kicked in, and it was like, yeah, that's right. You've done this before. You're back in this part of the country.
Wow.
Deal with it.
Living that moose life.
Yeah, the moose blood kicked in.
Jeez.
It was really interesting. Like, I wonder what would have. I wish I had like some sort of scientific equipment like hooked up to me, or had my blood taken or something to understand, like, this is not, like, I know this is cold, I recognize how cold this is, but it is not bothering me. I could stand out here and wait, and sure enough, I stood out there for like 20 minutes waiting, and I was like, this is not a big deal,
dude.
And I was just like, the human body is weird.
We couldn't be more opposite. Like, my friends call me the iguana and ask me if I need a hot rock or a heating rock whenever, because if I'm not sweating, I'm not having a good time. I don't know what it is. I'm completely different.
Well, you and Clyde would make great friends, because that's all Clyde does is just lay in the sun.
Oh, yeah.
He goes on our patio. He lays on the hot stone and just bakes himself.
Well, we've gone pretty far from gaming and into how much we like the weather, like two old men should. But were there?
You ever had just a tomato just to eat? You ever had that? You know, you just sit down and it's like, damn, that's a good tomato. Now that's an old person conversation right there. Like, oh man, I love me a good tomato. You slice that up, put it on a sandwich. That's great.
Were there some Patreon questions we were going to get to before we close
this
out? This episode 2?
Yeah, so we got some community questions from the SNESdrunk Patreon. Let's start with Ryan. Looking back on the NES or Super Nintendo system library, which game do you most regret missing as a kid?
That's a really good question. I think I could answer it with A Link to the Past. I actually didn't play that game until 2 years ago. Even though,
wow.
Yeah, I'm a huge OG Legend of Zelda fan. I mean, huge. It's easily my favorite game. It's the reason that I adore the NES so much, and the reason that I just thinking about like all the good memories with my dad and that kind of thing. Like it's entrenched there. And then I got the second one for Christmas. I was a little disappointed because it wasn't what I thought it was. I know you've done a video on this. It wasn't what I anticipated, but I ended up liking it years later. And for some reason, just never played A Link to the Past. I didn't have a Super Nintendo, but it's not like I didn't have opportunities to play it. But I would always kind of look back at that game and be like, man, I need to do it. I need to do it. And finally, a couple years ago, I did. But I really wished I'd played it earlier.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, I loved it. It's amazing.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Have you played the pseudo follow-up? What the heck is it called? A Link Between Worlds.
On the 3DS? No.
On the 3DS, yeah. I've got it behind me here.
No, I don't have a 3DS, unfortunately, but I do want to.
Oh.
It's on my, I guess, bucket list, so to speak.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, that's, like, if you liked Link to the Past, if you dig that top-down Zelda stuff, like, that should be, like, your next bucket list thing, because that game is awesome, too.
Yeah. I did play the DS ones, and I just got, they didn't do it for me. I had high hopes.
Which were is that Phantom, whatever it's called?
Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, yeah.
Oh, I never even played Spirit Tracks. I did play Phantom Hourglass. And
that one's
kind of like
okay, I guess. Very meh, but I mean, Spirit Tracks, I don't know. I don't want to be too divisive, but it just it infuriated me more than anything.
Let's see. So looking back on the Super Nintendo library, I guess I already answered this. Which games do you most regret missing as a kid? For me, it's Harvest Moon, because I was huge into SimCity as a kid, and then later on, when we got a computer, I was huge into SimCity 2000. I put so many hours into that game, and Harvest Moon's kind of the same spirit, where it's like a lot of management, a lot of routine, that sort of thing. And I remember when I first played it, and I had to laugh because you start the game basically clearing out like brush and logs and rocks and stuff, and you're using like various tools to do various things. Then you can finally plant stuff, and there's a day-night cycle. And I'm thinking like, man, this would totally be the lamest game in the world to some people, but to me, this is freaking awesome. Like I guess it was a lot of. a lot of stuff to like invoke your imagination. It was like it really felt like I owned my own farm, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
I was running my own city and I could do whatever I want with it, that sort of thing. So yeah, it definitely would have been Harvest Moon. The only other ones I can think of are like games that I already liked in the first place. Like I never owned Final Fight 3 as a kid. I would have loved it. I never owned Yoshi's Island as a kid, that sort of thing.
Right.
Like it's like, well, duh, everybody likes, you know. But yeah, Harvest Moon is my answer.
All right. Next up, Paul asks, which fighting games had the cheapest AI to fight against?
I keep going back to Mortal Kombat 2 is the big one for me. Just because it seemed impossible. Like once you got past like the second fight, I remember I would always pick Baraka.
Mm-hmm.
You'd always start like the first fight would be in that acid pit, and then you do the finisher to like uppercut them into the acid pit, and then a skeleton float up, and you're like, it was awesome. You're super into the game. And then I think the next stage was the pit, where you uppercut the guy into the spikes, the below. You get all this momentum. The game is super fun, and then it's like the computer just starts saying nope, and it's over. Like you start playing guys like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and especially Melina is the cheapest fighting game character ever.
Dude.
She does that teleportation move that's just beyond annoying, and the computer abuses the hell out of it. And yeah, that's my pick. I cannot. If I play that game, it has to be against a second player.
I guess my easy answer would be all of them, because I'm really bad. In general, I'm just terrible at fighting games. I was an only child, and I didn't really have a ton of friends. At least, well, I had friends, but they weren't into fighting games, so I just didn't play them a ton. They just weren't
Sure.
a thing. So I missed out on years of adolescent practice that would have made me a good fighting game player. But I've tried to play a few since, and recently, one that comes to mind where I really thought I was going to just choke myself out with the controller cord was Fatal Fury. I can't remember which one, probably the first one. I played it on like a compilation CD, and I know it has like, isn't it kind of kin to Final Fight? Isn't it a lot of the same characters? I mean, I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
I mean, Cody and the main
Bogart,
guy.
Yeah,
I forget his name. Yeah,
like Terry Bogard or something like that.
Yeah, that's who it is. Yeah, they definitely have a resemblance for sure.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I'm conflating Hagar and Bogard, but anyway, I made it to the boss, which wasn't easy. I mean, I spent all weekend just screaming at my television trying to get there, and I think it's Geese Howard. I think that's the name of the guy.
Yes, that's the final. Yeah, I remember that.
I'll never forget. I don't know why. I usually don't remember shit like that, but I remember that. And that guy took me so long. I mean, what a cheesy. Oh, dude, I invented new cuss words. My wife was. I'm sure she was scared at some point. Like it was
like slowly backing away, like taking the child out of the
yeah. It was a tough fight. It was a tough fight. And people out there are probably like, that's like the easiest. That's one of the easiest fighting games there is. Like, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. I'm just that bad. And yeah, it was,
you're saying stuff like Geese Howard. What kind of a name is that?
Yeah,
that's not even a name. That's an animal. What's your problem?
Yeah, it was tough on me, man.
That sucks. Well, anyway, let's it's a stark visual there. A very incensed Trav shouting at his TV insults at a at Fatal Fury characters.
Yeah.
Next is Burger Champ.
Ooh,
He's
I like
gonna
that.
ask. Yeah. Didn't you want to? I remember you said you wanted to challenge this guy.
I want to be Burger Champ, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You name the place. You name
can
the
we
burger.
have some kind of? Can we have some kind of showdown here? The hammer has been laid down, Burger Champ. Okay, so it says, what was your hometown gaming scene like growing up in terms of like pharmacy rental games, outlet mall budget games, arcades, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so like I said, I live in rural Virginia, and I grew up not far from here in even more rural Virginia, in this little town that had a stoplight, a Piggly Wiggly, which I guess that's kind of highfalutin, but we had one, like a bank, and we also had a duplex theater for no reason. You could fit most of the town in it. It was incredible. And yeah, and then out front there was tons of arcade machines. So that's how I was, introduced to most video gaming that, wasn't on the NES was through the arcades. And I remember playing the Turtles arcade game there and losing my mind. Like, whenever I'd get to go to a movie, Dad would send me out with like 4 quarters, which is barely enough for a 6-year-old to do anything with an arcade machine. And I bet it bought me the best 48 seconds of Ninja Turtles any dad could have ever bought for his son.
Right.
So there was that. So that was actually kind of cool. For a small town, we were pretty blessed to have that as an arcade. But there were also 2 rental shops in town that I remember. One was called Video World. And just by the name, you're thinking, wow. So many games, probably endless selection of games. No, it was like I'm looking around my room right now and I'm like, yeah, I think you could put Video World in here. Like, it was so small. It was mainly just old VHS tapes that had Arnold Schwarzenegger on it and like 3 NES sports games. Like, it wasn't much. So we usually avoided that. But there was this one like off the beaten path place, and it was sort of it was a gas station and like a hunter's shop. So like they sold like bait and minnows, and I think you could get a gun there and like a fishing pole, and you could get like, I remember you could get dirty magazines because I knew not to go like that far back.
Yeah.
But if you went down in the basement, which sounds like that's where they should have put the dirty magazines, they actually put all their video games down there. And it was this huge basement with rows and rows of like, any new system that came out, they usually stocked it with lots of games to rent, lots of movies. It was awesome. I loved going down there, and the lights were always off when you went down. You had to turn the light on yourself, and it went back to like, I don't even know what was on the other side. Like, it was kind of too afraid to go too far back. But we rented so many games and so many movies from that place, and it closed down even before I graduated high school. But it was such a cool little off the beaten trail place.
Oh, right on. You're speaking in the past tense, though. Is that place long gone?
Yeah. It probably closed down while it was still like in the 90s. But as a young kid, I could be exaggerating it a little bit because I was so small, but it seemed like a larger than life rental place. Just I imagine like that scene from The Matrix when like he hits the thing and like just rows of guns come out. Like, that's how that rental store is to me. Like, it was just an endless sections of rows of games and movies that you could get. That was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I mean, what else could you possibly want? Yeah, for me it was Mr. Boovies was in West St. Paul on Robert Street and Thompson Avenue. That was usually our first destination for rentals. There was also Video Update, which had a lot less stuff. Where was Video Update? I forget where the other one was, but we eventually got a Video Update store in South St. Paul, Minnesota, which is where I grew up. And in their back room, they ended up somehow getting a bunch of arcade games back there. And they were mostly fighting games. I think it was like 4. I want to say there were 5, but I can't remember the 5th. Because it was Street Fighter II Champion Edition, where you can play as the bosses, which was awesome. There was WWF Superstars. There was World Heroes. There was Art of Fighting, which was awesome because you could unplug it and plug it back in and get a free game. And then there was one more. I just can't remember what it is. And there was like the Kiss pinball machine in the back too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't like Kiss at all, but that machine was like cool because it was always like blasting like music and stuff like that. So
yeah, I wonder if that's worth any money. Actually, I don't know, because I have a buddy whose his father-in-law has one, and this memory's just, this is a 3-year-old memory coming back to me. At his wedding, he's like, "Hey Travis, I know you're into games," and I was like, "Yeah, buddy." He's like, "I got a Kiss pinball machine. How much you think it's worth?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then I was not reminded of that conversation until just now.
Wow.
So maybe I could tell him. Maybe I could be like, "Hey, man, I remember 3 years ago you brought this up."
I'm looking on eBay, which is probably a bad source.
Could be.
Because the prices are going to be ridiculous. There's 2 on here. One is $10,000 and one is $10,500.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty insane.
Maybe I can just tell him I'll give him, $500 for it and see what he says.
I mean, jeez.
I don't know the guy.
Yeah, and these look like they're in good shape too. Like the bumpers, everything
incredible.
looks clean.
Man, 10,000. If I owned anything that was worth $10,000, I couldn't get rid of it fast enough.
Right on. Yeah, that was pretty much it for me. For as far as like our scene, we just had that one rinky-dink little arcade that I would walk to. Of course, there was the big arcade that would come to the Minnesota State Fair. That's where I got to play like X-Men and like the Ninja Turtles game. I'm so jealous that you got to play it more than I did.
I mean, 48 seconds for $1, man. Come
Oh,
on.
those glorious 48 seconds though. Amazing. But yeah, no, that's where they really brought out like Daytona USA and like all like the big games for the state fair. So that was a lot of my exposure to like the more high pro. Oh, that's right. I just now remembered there's there's a bowling alley called Wells Fargo, not to be confused with the bank.
What?
And that is where we went to play. They had like all the adult, the rated M for mature games. Like,
right.
They were the first to get Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2. They had Cabal. They had a bunch of other games I can't remember. But that place reeked of cigarette smoke. And, it's a bowling alley. It smells like a friggin' bowling alley.
Right.
But I'll never forget the visual of when Mortal Kombat 2 showed up. I went there with my friend Dustin. And we walked in, like, excited to try it out. And there was already a crowd of, like, I want to say 20, 25 kids, like standing around one machine. Jeez. And there's just like this constant chatter, like, and it's just the atmosphere is just electric. Like we're seeing all these new characters and this blood, and there's always one guy that somehow knows all the moves and knows all the finishers. And it's like, how the hell do you know all this stuff already? This game just came out. Yeah, and man. he was doing Kung Lao's finisher with the hat, where you slice the guy's head off and stuff like that. Of course, nobody could beat this dude. It was like the scene out of The Wizard. It was ridiculous. But yeah, that just came back to me like just now. Like I remember Mortal Kombat being there, but I forgot about Mortal Kombat 2 and like me and Dustin going there and being like, well, I guess we're not going to play because we'd have to wait like 3 hours in line just to have a chance to get at this guy. And even then, this guy would kick the crap out of us.
I can't believe there's a bowling alley named Wells Fargo. Like, is Wells Fargo like the name of... Like, I don't understand.
I don't get... See, when people would talk about the bank, I'm like, what are you talking about? Wells Fargo's a bowling alley. So I was always confused by that. Yeah. I still think of it as a bowling alley.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, does that pretty much wrap up an episode of Drunk Friend?
Yeah, we're pretty much... I think that's about it for now for our... makeup episode, I guess. Weren't there supposed to be guests? There will be eventually, yes. Technical problems, but that will be remedied in the coming weeks.
Yes, this sophomore episode. We're still building rapport. We're greasing the wheels, getting into it. I might have had too much to drink. I don't know.
Greasing some palms.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's how you get by in this world. I had a lot of things I was going to ask you in this episode, and then I think for 5 solid minutes we talked about how resistant we were to extreme temperatures, which is pretty cool. I think that's listeners are going to love it. So all right.
On.
So that's been another Drunk Friend podcast. If you like this show and want to hear others with me on it specifically, you can go to polykill.com. Try out the Polykill podcast if you want. It's a good time.
Also, we want to give a shout-out to Coolor for the podcast music. The song you heard is called Electric Star Bounce, and you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page.
Yes, do that. It's very good. You can find me on Twitter at TravPlaysGames.
And I'm at SNESdrunk.
Catch us on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day.